This is J. Krishnamurti's second talk with students at Rajghat, 1967.
I would like this morning to talk about something that may be rather difficult, if I may use that word, to understand. It is really not too difficult, but one has to give a little attention to it. I'm going to talk about something which needs learning. Probably you have not thought about the matter in that way, and so you have to listen to it as though you are for the first time learning about it. Not saying that it's too difficult, or it's too impractical, or too theoretical, too far away, or something or other. But rather, listen to it as you would listen to something that you are hearing for the first time. And therefore, when you do so listen, your mind is very awake. You are inquiring, you are questioning, you are not just accepting what somebody says, but rather together going into the problem. And to go into a problem very deeply, you must be free to inquire. But if you say, well, I have opinions about it, this is what I think, or this is what somebody else has said, however holy or unholy be, then you will stop inquiring. So, when we are listening, it is essential, it seems to me, to listen with a free mind. Not a mind that says, I agree or disagree, or this is what I think and I'm going to oppose you, but rather listen with an inquiring mind. Not a mind that has taken sides in argument, in opinion, discussing over mere words, but rather listening with an intention to understand. And that is one of the most difficult things to do, because most of us don't know how to listen any more than we know how to look at that river, the beauty of that river. I do not know if you noticed this morning when there was a mist over it. It looked as though it was a vast, endless sea, very quiet, asleep, but full of movement. There was great beauty in it. In the same way, if one can listen with a happy, friendly, careful, and intelligent inquiry, then we shall learn a great deal. And there are a great many things to learn. You may read a lot of books, but learning is something different from acquiring knowledge from books. And we are going to learn together this morning about something perhaps you may not have thought about. One of the great problems throughout the world is the unity of man. Man is broken up as an American with his own culture, Russia, India, China and so on with their own cultures. And each culture thinking that it's the best. And each American, and the Indian, the Hindu, the Muslim, the world is divided. And there is no unity among men at all. And the political problem, really, the ultimate and the only practical political problem is to bring about a unity of mankind. That is the most practical thing to do. Not the political divisions, the nationalistic divisions, the sovereign divisions of the world. That is not at all practical, as you see what is happening, because it's bringing wars, bringing about divisions, hatreds, antagonisms, and the issue, the real issue in front of man is how to bring about this unity. Not only politically, economically, socially, but much at a deeper level, religiously. Not religious in the sense Hindu religion or Catholicism or Buddhism or Islam. Those are all divide people. They bring about hatred, antagonism, wars, religious wars, and so on. So, is it possible, practically, not theoretically, to bring about unity of man? You know, any group of people, a community, when it is threatened, unite. When China attacked India, all the Indians got together and united. For the moment, the greater threat, the greater fear, made them forget their own little fears, their own little provincial divisions, linguistic divisions, and so on. So, generally, hate, fear, and danger bring about man together. Like the last war, when there was the threat of Hitler, all the other nations got together. They hated each other. They disliked each other. They thought, oh, the French were terrible, and the English were terrible, and this and that. But the greater threat brought them together. So, you see throughout history, not that I am a historian, but one observes this, that mankind, however divided they be, religiously, politically, socially, as division of class and so on, when there is a great threat, a great danger, threat of destruction, brings them all together. Then they forget their class, their for the time being, their nationality. So, fear, hatred, in front of a great crisis, brings them together. That is obvious. That is what has happened throughout history, for centuries upon centuries, each keeping their own nationality, their own class, their own established order, or which is really disorder, and when something greater threatens that society, they all get together. Now this is a fact. There is no discussion about it. Now, India, this country, has never been a nation. It was united more or less under the British, but as India got freedom and all the confusion began, as you see now, it is becoming more and more and more divided. The south against the north, east against west, and so on, so on, so on. Now, what will bring the India together, and what will bring the whole of the world together? Not only India, but the whole of mankind together. Because if there is no unity among mankind, there will be always disorder. There may be, like in America, where I've just come from, a tremendous prosperity, of which this country has no idea what that prosperity is. Prosperity implies leisure, having plenty of time to enjoy, to read, to amuse oneself, to do what one wants to do. Prosperity isn't merely having things, cars, bigger houses, better gardens, and so on. But fundamentally it is leisure, having time to enjoy, to look at the trees, to walk in the forest, to amuse oneself. And here, in this country, there isn't any of that at all. I do not know if you have not noticed how every workman works. These laborers work night and day, endlessly. And so, must India go through nationalism? You understand? The nationalistic unity, the linguistic, overall linguistic control, and so on. Separate government, separate army, and always separate. So the question is it possible for a closed society, you understand what I mean by a closed society? A society like the Indian society is a closed, because it excludes everybody. Its culture is, at least they say so, is India. Any culture that is identified with a country is no culture at all. Culture is mankind. Not Indian culture, Muslim culture, or the Catholic culture, and so on and so on. Culture means something living, moving, evolving, growing, developing, becoming tremendously vital. But that vitality, that expansion, that growth, that intensity is denied when it becomes Indian, Muslim, Catholic, or this or that. So, but you will notice all the people are talking about Indian culture as though it's something extraordinary. Indian culture, when they talk about, is something dead, gone, finished. And you can't live on dead things, dead tradition, dead authority, dead books, however sacred they are. At least there is no book sacred. That's the invention of the priests. So, our problem is it possible for mankind, for India, not to go through the nationalistic, separative process and then try to come together? You understand what is... Now you take what is happening in Europe. There have been divisions, linguistic, nationalistic, economic, social divisions in Europe, as France, Belgium, Holland, Italy, Germany, Scandinavia, and so on, so on, so on. Divided. Now they're trying to come together, which is called the common market, where they're trying to get rid of frontiers, having ultimately one money, no passports among themselves, free trade, and so on, so on, so on. That is, after having had many, many, many wars, 2 terrible wars, where such wars have never been, destroying everything. And they are realizing war is not the way to unity. And at one time, there was the Catholic Empire, which said, under one God we'll all be together. That God was merely a belief. It was not a real, actual experience of human beings. It was just a belief. Round that belief, they tried to unify. You're following all this? And with the result, there was a Protestant belief and other kinds of belief broken up. Belief can never bring people together. Ideologies can never bring people together. Nor organized religions as dogma, as ritual can bring people together. You understand? So what will bring mankind together? And that is the most important question for India, for everybody to face. Because if we are not together, as human beings, we'll destroy each other. The atom bomb, the bomb that has been developed since the last war, that can kill and destroy, wipe out the world, leaving few people here and there. Russia has got it, and America has got it, France is developing it, and so on. Human beings can be destroyed completely. Perhaps except in some vague corner, in some corner, few human beings left. But war will destroy. So there must be unity. Not brotherhood as an idea. You understand? That's just an idea. And that idea has existed centuries upon centuries, that mankind must get together. And the very people who talk about getting together are dividing themselves. Hierarchy. You understand all this? So, seeing this whole pattern of man's culture, religion, political divisions, historical incidents, and so on, you see what is going on in the world and what is going on in this country. And so you ask yourself, how is man to come together? Not through belief anymore, not through authority anymore. You're following all this? Authority has disappeared completely. Nobody wants to be told what to do, except perhaps in India. That is the tradition of this culture, which is dead, and therefore people who follow authority are more or less dead. They can repeat Ramayana and Upanishads, Rama and Sita and all the rest of it, but they're all just repetitive gramophone records without any life in it. So, knowing that there must be unity, not as an idea, not as something far off utopian concept, but actually there must be unity. And that unity cannot possibly be brought about by any compulsion, by any propaganda, by any religious sanction, edict, or through any economic pressures. So what is the element, what is the quality necessary to bring mankind together? You understand the question now? And man must come together, not divide more and more and more. Is the question clear? Right? If the question is clear, that not through economic pressure, not through propaganda, not through political manipulations, not through religious dogmas, beliefs and rituals, or repetition of words, if none of those has none of those brought peace or unity to man, then what will bring it? Right? Now what do you say? What will bring together mankind? What do you say? You understand? Russian Revolution in 1918 said we are going to wipe out all classes. There will be no army. And ultimately government will disappear. There will be no need for government. They started out with the most brilliant ideas. And they destroyed millions of people in establishing that idea, trying to force it down people's throat. They liquidated them, they sent them to concentration camps, they tortured them, they put them in all kinds of impossible cold places in Siberia, forced camps and all that. And after killing thousands and probably millions of people, they're coming back to the same old pattern. The pattern being the high, the middle, and the low. The high being the high intellectual, capable, the new aristocracy, which is dictatorship, and below them the middle class, and below them the laborer. The same pattern is being repeated. And therefore they are not, through revolution, they have not brought peace. They have not brought about unity of mankind. So, economic revolution will not bring it. You're following all this? Compelling people through torture, through death, through every means is not going to bring people together. Or hate, fear will bring people together. Because the moment that hate and fear, which is aroused in front of a danger, when that danger goes, people will come back to what they were, loathing each other. So what is the way out? You understand the question, right? If you understand the question, how are you going to answer it? And you must, you understand? You must answer this question. Because that is the crisis in this country. Not political, not so much starvation, of course it's a tremendous question, not overpopulation. Unless you solve this problem, you're going to be led to disaster. Right? Now, how will you answer this question? You understand? This is a challenge. You're asked to reply. You can't just say, I don't know. It's not my business. I'm too young. Or I'm too old. You have got to answer it. How will you answer it? You say love and affection. Surely that's the only way out, isn't it? Love and affection. But people don't love. People are much too greedy, much too ambitious, competitive. They want to have prestige, position. You follow? You and I and some of us know love is the only way out. Being kind, being gentle, thinking about others, not being callous, forgetting one's own linguistic, national division, forgetting all that. Love is the only way out, right? And how will you have that? Not in little drops, but in abundance, full of it. How will you have it? And without it, there will be no unity. You understand? You may talk a great deal about brotherhood, about, all that nonsense. But actually, if you haven't got it, if it isn't a flame, if it isn't something with which you are full, abundant, then the world is going to disaster. Now, how will you come to it? Please think it over very carefully. How will you have this thing? Not a theory. Don't reduce it to a theory. Then it becomes impractical. Right? Right, sir? He says, the questioner says, you've asked us to think for ourselves. I did not. And he says, if we think for ourselves, each one will think according to his own fancy. And therefore will contradict each other. First of all, let's correct the impression. I did not say think for yourself. That's what you're doing now. You're thinking for yourself, only you daren't express it in front of older people, in front of authority. So, but you are thinking for yourself. But you don't know how to think. Right? You are thinking for yourself. What to think, but not how to think. And what is thinking? I also said, thinking is always old. There's nothing new in thinking. Right? No. Because thinking is response, is the outcome of memory, isn't it? Look, I ask you, what's your name? And you reply immediately, don't you? Because you're familiar with your name. Right? And you see, without so-called thinking, you reply. Right? I ask you where you live, and you don't take time to think over it, but you reply immediately, because you are familiar with it. Now, just a minute. Now I ask you something little more complex, little more difficult. So between the question and the answer, there is a time interval, isn't there? In that time interval, you are thinking. That is your memory saying, by Joe, what shall I, where shall I, how do I know this question? Do I know the answer? I must know, I will think about it, I look at a book. You follow? You are taking time. In that interval, thought is operating. Thought, which is the response of memory, right? So, thought as response of memory is never new. And therefore is never free. You can't make it new. You're saying something which you haven't thought about. I'll explain. Thought is always old, right? Because thought is based on memory, on experience, on knowledge. And from that springs thought. Therefore, knowledge, memory is experience, and experience is always in the past. And from the past, no new thing can be. You can't make something new. You can modify it. You can reshape it. But what you have modified, what you have reshaped is not new. Right? So, thought, please follow this. So, thought cannot bring about love. Right? You understand the question, or is it too difficult now? Look, sir, it's like saying, I will practice love. Huh? I will sit down day after day, think about love, practice, be kind, be gentle, force myself to pay attention to others, but that's not love, is it? Because I have thought that unity of mankind is essential and love is the only way, and to have that love I must practice. Like a machine, I must practice. And to practice, I must think about it every day. And thought, being old, can never produce something new. And love is always new. That's the beauty of it. You understand? No, you don't. All right. What's that? Huh? Oh, by understanding, love can come. What do we mean by that word, understanding? Look at that word. What does it mean to understand? When you say, I understand, what do you mean by that? I understand. Mathematical problem. That's what's happened there. You have studied mathematics, you have got a certain problem, and because you have studied, you have learnt about it, you can say, yes, I've solved that problem, I understood it. Right? Now, when we talk about understanding, we generally mean, don't we, not only intellectual understanding. I hear some words, I understand those words, and say, by Joe, I understood what you have said. But that's not understanding. Understanding comes when your mind, listen to this carefully, when your mind, when your heart, when all your body, everything is in complete attention, complete harmony, then there is an understanding. If there is that understanding, that complete attention, complete harmony is love. What do I mean by complete attention? I'll have to go into it slowly, step by step. When you come into the room, into this hall, did you notice the proportions of the hall? The size of the hall, how many beams there are in the roof, how many windows, the shape of the windows, the arches and the shape of the arches. Did you notice it? No. Why? Because you have been here so often that you don't even look at it. Right? But when you come in here next time, watch it. Watch the proportions of the hall. How the doors close, what the shape of the doors are, where the lights are, how many beams there are. this, the shape of the window, the lattice work, the plant, how people are dressed, the color. Please follow you. I'm answering your question. What do I mean by complete attention? I'm explaining it. That is, be aware of the room as you come into it. The color of the carpet, the way people sit, their dresses, how they cough. So listen and observe, right? And when you do that, you begin to discover your own reactions. You begin to discover, when you look at that arch, say, well, I don't like it, it's too complicated. It should be very simple, it's too ornate, too decorative, right? That's your reaction to it. Or you say, well, I don't like that color. That's your reaction, your response to that color. But your response to that color, to the arch, to the door, to the beam, prevents you from looking at it. Your response prevents you from looking at the color. Because you have already said, no, I don't like it. When you say, I don't like it, that prevents you from looking at it. Right? So, when you come into the hall, you observe the painting, the way people sit, their color, the dresses of their color. I mean, the color of their dresses, the windows, and so on, so on. And also you notice your reaction to them. And when your reaction predominates, then you don't see. Of course it is. The question is it possible to look without reaction? Of course. Otherwise you are a monkey. Not you. We are. To observe without reaction. Then you learn. Right? So, you begin that way. So you are aware of the hall, you are aware of your reactions, you are aware that your reactions prevent you from looking. So that very understanding that your reactions are preventing you from looking stops your reactions and you look. Now, then you proceed from there. Then you look at everything without choice, without reaction. You watch the river, you watch the trees, you watch the people, you watch the politician endlessly spouting words. The most impractical people are the politicians. And so you watch them, watch. And also you are watching your reaction. And because you are watching, your reactions are dormant. Of course, you have to learn about the whole thing. And out of this comes complete attention. Then, out of that complete attention comes something quite different, which may be called love. So, let's begin again differently. Unity of mankind is absolutely, urgently necessary. Not in 10 years' time. Now, immediately it is imperative, essential, urgent. How will it come about? Because without that, do what you will, pass any number of laws, say there must be only one language. It will never succeed. It has never succeeded. And as you said just now, that love is the only way out. How are you to come to that new dimension? Right? You don't know what that dimension is, right? Because we are full of nationalism, class differences. You are this and I am that. I am got a degree, you have no degree. I am a big man, you are a little man. You know, that's where we live, on that dimension. And to leave that dimension is to be in the other dimension. To leave it completely. Can I leave the dimension in which I live? The dimension being my antagonism to you or to somebody else, my prejudices, my tradition, my culture. My culture being my Indian culture or Western culture or another culture. As I said, when it becomes a particular culture, it ceases to be culture altogether. So, can I, who have lived in this dimension of fear, hate, competition, ambition, position, can I immediately let go? You understand the question? Immediately let go. Otherwise, there's no unity. I can't say, well, I will enjoy my violence. I will enjoy my pleasures of hitting somebody, hating somebody, and eventually I give it up. There's no time for that. So can I, realizing that I live in a dimension in which there is hate, greed, envy, ambition, corruption, political chicanery and all the rest of it, can I completely let that go? Can you? Huh? Can you let go? What's the difficulty? If you can't let go, if you can't die to it, if you can't say, well, I'm going to throw it all out of my window, what are you going to do? Look what has happened to you. You have heard this morning, all of you have heard this morning, that there must be unity of mankind. Otherwise it's going to be disastrous. And you have heard also that the only way out is love. You have heard that also. And you say, and you have heard also, that as long as you live in this dimension of hate, ambition, greed, and so on, you will never come to a different dimension. And in that new dimension there is unity. You have heard these 4 statements. What are you going to do about it? You can't say, well, I haven't heard. You have heard. It is sown into your blood. It's like a seed in the earth that you have planted. You can't say, well, I will kill it. You can't. It is there. So what will you do? What's that? I'm afraid I can't hear. I couldn't hear properly.
Don't we see the danger of the world destruction unless we unite?
The question is, why isn't the danger of destruction so great that we unite? Right? That's the question, isn't it? I told you, you will unite. As wars have united people together to fight another people, you have united, but that's not unity. Right? I pointed out, hate, fear brings people together very much. Right? So, what will you do after hearing these four statements? Unity, how world has fought through centuries upon centuries, dividing itself and wanting unity and not getting it. How religions throughout the world have talked about love and be good, be kind, be gentle, and through a belief try to make them behave, and it has not succeeded. And unity is absolutely necessary. Knowing all this, and knowing that to come upon this new dimension which is called love, there must be letting go of the other dimension, hate and so on. Hearing all this, what will you do? The questioner says that human beings throughout the world are the same. Then why do human beings think differently? First of all, human beings are not the same. You know, similarities must be distrusted. Huh? That's a little bit too complex. Do you notice that are you the same as me or me as somebody else different? We're all different, aren't we? Though we belong to the same monkeys group, we're all the same, aren't we? We are different. You are much more intelligent than I am. You are much more beautiful than I am. You have got nicer features. You have got a nicer body. Your family is better. You are better fed. You are this and that. And I am dull. You are clever. I am stupid. You are brilliant. There is a difference. Though I am as greedy as you are. Though I am as ambitious as you are. I want, though I dislike and you like. So this goes on. Outwardly we have all the same appearance, but inwardly we are all boiling. You follow? So, the outward difference does not indicate that we are uniformly the same inwardly. And we think differently because our conditioning, our education, our culture, the family I live in, the way my father, my mother, my grandmother, or the teacher has taught me, makes me think slightly differently from you. And also I think thinking differently from you makes me independent. But it doesn't, because our thinking is essentially based on some dead memory. All right, sir, I'm sorry I've come back to this question. What are we going to do? You know, one of the most peculiar ideas is that what we are talking about is utterly impractical. It's so vague, so general, so abstract, and so on, it is not practical. Right? This is what all the people say. Oh, very good talk, but my God, you are impractical. As though what they are doing, what they are thinking, how they function in daily life is very practical. You understand? They're not. On the contrary, they believe in God and do everything contrary. Right? They talk about brotherhood and hate each other. They form a society for brotherhood and ideals, and they're at each other's throats. And they call this very, very practical. Right? There's starvation going on in this country. And the only way to solve it is not by politicians, by getting all human beings together and say, for God's sake, let's solve this problem. Not as a communist, socialist, Congress, this or that. Which are all impractical. So put away from your mind this idea that you are practical and the speaker is utterly impractical. Whereas the contrary, you are totally impractical, right? By your ideas, by your nationalism, by your sovereign governments, by your army, by killing each other, by competing with each other, which leads to such mess, such confusion, which is the very essence of impracticality. Whereas if you approach it what we're talking about, that's the most practical. Right? So, what are you going to do? You're not going to pass an exam. But what are you going to do? Because this is, you have to do something. Because the house is burning. You can't sit back and say, God, some politician's going to put the fire out. Right? You know what action is? To do something, you know what to do something. To get up and to go, that's doing. To plant a tree, to plow a field, to go to the office and to work in the office or in the field or do, that is doing. Right? Now, The doing for most people is based on an idea, right? On a concept, on a formula. They say, I have a formula, a concept, and according to that, I am going to act. The action is practical, the idea is impractical. Right? When I get up and go, that's practical, isn't it? I go. But when I sit down and say, I must go because I have an idea, if I don't go, I'll get hurt or do this or that, the idea is different from action. And hence, between the idea and action, there is conflict. And that conflict breeds more confusion. Whereas if I see something, I do it. Right? If you see a snake, you act. Right? You don't say, well, stand in front of it and theorize. So, when you see something very clearly, there is immediate action. That means seeing is acting. Understanding is acting. Now, if you understand that love is the only way out of this terrible mess, there is action. But if you don't see it, you're going to play around with ideas and say, it's impractical, I can't do it. What must I do? Must I do this and that and 10 different things? You get it? The moment you see something that is right, that is dangerous, that is so, you are acting. When you have got a toothache, you don't discuss what the color of the dentist's hair is. Do you? Or the length of his beard. You go to the dentist. But people have ideas, theories. And therefore these theories, these ideas, these beliefs, these concepts prevents them from acting. And because they don't want to act, that's why they invent these beliefs. Right? Now, are you going to invent beliefs, theories, and say, well, I don't know what that love is, but before I can come there, I must know what it is. Right? And therefore I'm going to find out what it is. And ask somebody to tell me in words what it is. And nobody can tell you. If they tell you, it is not. Why does man want to depend on others? Is that it? You have to depend on the postman, haven't you? You have to depend on the railway, the engineer to run the railway. The milkman. So you have to depend on people at a certain level, haven't you? But your question is, why do we inwardly depend on people? Right? That's what you mean, don't you? That is, you depend on somebody emotionally to give you comfort, to give you encouragement, to tell you what to do, to guide you. So you depend on others. Why? Why do you depend on others? Because you yourself, listen to this, you yourself are confused, don't know what to do. Therefore somebody comes around and says, I know what to do, I'll tell you what to do, and you, out of your confusion, misery, and so on, you say, by Jove, he knows better than I do, I'll follow him. Right? Look what has happened. I am confused, you come along and tell me what to do, and out of my confusion, I follow you. Right? Right? Out of my confusion, I follow you. Would I follow you if I was very clear? I wouldn't. Right? I wouldn't follow anybody when I'm clear. So, I follow somebody only when I'm confused. Right? And when I'm following out of my confusion, it will lead to further confusion. Right? You get this? As long as I am following somebody or choosing somebody out of my confusion to follow, that very person is going to lead me to more confusion because I have chosen him out of my confusion. Right? So the first thing to do is not to follow, but to say, look, I'm confused. So whatever I do out of this confusion will be confused. Therefore, my first job is to clear up my confusion, not to follow somebody. Right? So, can I clear up my confusion? I'm confused about religion. I'm confused about what society tells me. I'm confused whom I should marry, not marry, whether about my job or no job, all that. I'm confused. So I have first to look at myself, to see why I am confused. Right? Why am I confused? Because so many people have told me, I must do this, I must not do this, and so on, so on, so on. Right? So I must put all that out and say, no, let me begin slowly. Let me begin to find out what I really feel. And do I know what I really feel and think? Therefore, I must look at myself very carefully. As I look at this hall when I come in, the windows, the beams, the light, the shape, the color of in the same way I look at myself very, very carefully, without any reaction. Just to look at myself. Then out of that attention, out of that looking, I am not confused. Then I don't follow anybody. You know, the other day, there was a gentleman there in the middle of the hall who said, why, when there is so much hunger, so much poverty in this country, why do all of you go about in gold, jewels and so on? Why? Have you thought about that question? Did you hear that question? Huh? No. All right. Here is the question. I am putting it instead of him. Right? There is starvation round you in all these villages. Right? And some of you boys eat such a lot here. 20, what do you call those things? Chapatis. And next door in the village, they have hardly enough. right? You have jewels, nice saris and nice dresses, and they have hardly one. You know this. What are you going to do? And you have to do something. Once, well, I have got jewels, my mother gave them to me, and my father don't say, what are you going to do? You understand? Listen to this question carefully. By your giving your jewels, your earrings, giving it to the poor, you're giving what little you have, which you must. What little you have, you must give to others. And will that solve the problem? You understand the question? What little you have, you must give. With a free heart, without any motive, with joy, you must give it. Out of fullness of your heart, you must give it to these poor people. That is understood. But if you don't wear your jewels, if you don't have good saris, this and that, is that going to solve the problem? Huh? No? No. The answer is no. Why? Why won't solve it? Now, just listen. You've answered. You said no. But you haven't thought it out. Your instinct was right. But you haven't seen the whole meaning of it. Now let's go into it, if you're not tired. You say no. My giving little here and there, which I must, which in all decency, in all goodness, I will. But that is not going to solve the problem. And you say, yes, it won't solve the problem. Why do you say that? You say it instinctively, or you have thought it out. You have felt your way through it. Now, the problem is much greater than your giving your ring to somebody. Much greater. The greater problem includes the lesser problem. Right? Right? The great includes the little. But the little won't include the great. So by doing little things, you won't solve the big problem. But if you understand the big problem, then you can do the little thing. Then it will have a relationship to the big thing. Right? Now, what is the big problem? The problem of starvation. Is that the only problem? Is the starvation the problem, or it is the result? The result being, it is the result. The causes are class division, nationality, religious difference, linguistic difference, the politicians using the occasion for their own aggrandizement. That's it. The whole structure of society has brought about this. Right? Unless you change the structure of society, by giving your ring is not going to alter the structure. So you have to attack the structure. The structure, which is tradition, which is, you follow? All that. It is this so-called Indian culture that has produced this starvation. The culture being a closed group of people, the Brahmins, non-Brahmins, the division. which means each person is out for himself. Out for himself in the name of his family, in the name of his country, in the name of his party, and so on. Each person is out for himself. In the name of God, in the name of religion, in the name of brotherhood, in the name of all the rest of it. So unless the social structure is completely changed, starvation will go on in different forms. It may not be purely physical form, it will be psychological form. So, it is your job as a young people, students, it's your job to change society. Not just pass some silly little exam and then get married and get a job and that's that. It's your job as a human being living in a country like this, faced with this immense problem. It's your duty, it's your function, it's your responsibility, it's your human necessity that says, I must change the structure of society. It may, in the changing of the structure of society, you might get burnt, but you have to face it. How is one to change the whole structure of society? What is society? Society is, to put it very, very simply, is relationship between two human beings. Right? Please, don't cough. I know you're tired. Let's finish this. Get your coughing over now. I'll stop for 2 minutes and then we'll resume. Finish with your coughing? Turning in your heads to see who is going out? Huh? So, after we finish all that, let's proceed. We said, society must, the structure of society must be changed. And you have to change it. You, not somebody else. And you say, how am I to change it? You can change it only in your relationship with another. Right? In your relationship with your family, if you have servants, in your relationship with everything. You can only change your relationship, which is a very complex thing, I won't go into it very deeply, when you cease to be angry, when you cease to create enmity, when you are not competitive, when you are not ambitious for yourself, for your family, for your group, for your community, for your ideology. Then you bring about a different human relationship. And that human relationship is at a different dimension where there is love and not the other. Right, sir, that's enough.